Admiral Tayon was drinking his morning coffee when the world changed forever. He stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Defense Command, watching the sunrise paint the clouds in shades of orange and gold. It was a beautiful morning. It would be the last peaceful morning Earth would know for a very long time. The screens around him flickered. Every screen on Earth flickered at the same moment. In homes, in offices, in hospitals, in schools, on phones and tablets and billboards, the same image appeared. An alien face. Gray skin stretched over a skull that was too long, too narrow. Eyes that were completely black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Species designation. Human. Your expansion ends now. Tae-young set down his coffee cup. His hand was steady. He had trained for this moment his entire life, even though he had hoped it would never come. The alien continued speaking. You have violated 17 galactic treaties. You have expanded beyond your permitted boundaries. You have developed weapons that threaten galactic peace. The Galactic Council has reached a decision. The image changed. Now it showed space. Thousands of ships hung in the darkness just beyond Mars. Each ship was enormous. Miles long, covered in weapons that glowed with terrible energy. Tae-young counted at least 10,000 vessels. More than enough to destroy every human settlement in the solar system. Surrender your colonies, the alien said. Dismantle your fleets. Submit to biological modification to remove your aggressive tendencies. You have one Earth rotation to comply. Failure means extinction. The screens went dark. For a moment there was silence. Then Tae-young's communication device began to buzz. Everyone's communication device began to buzz. The world was waking up to the fact that humanity had just been given a death sentence in Seoul. Dr. Minji watched the message from her office at the Emergency Operations Center. She was Earth's leading expert on alien species. She had spent 30 years studying every piece of information humanity had gathered about the Galactic Council. The Council was old. Very old. They had ruled the galaxy for over 40,000 years. 12 species sat on the Council, and they had never faced a challenge to their power. Why would they? They had technology that seemed like magic. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. They had erased civilizations before. Minji pulled up her files on biological modification. It was a nice way of saying something horrible. The Council did not like aggressive species. When they found one, they did not destroy it. That would be wasteful. Instead, they changed it. They rewrote the species at a genetic level, removing everything that made them dangerous. Everything that made them themselves. 17 species had been modified before humanity even discovered fire. Minji had studied their records. Before modification, they had been warriors, explorers, dreamers. After modification, they were docile, obedient, empty. The Council called it elevation. Minji called it murder of the soul. Her phone rang. It was the president's office. President Hanben stood before the cameras 2 hours later. Every person on Earth watched. Every person on the lunar colonies watched. Every person on the Mars settlements watched. They were all waiting to hear if their leader would surrender them to a fate worse than death. Hanbin was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes. He did not look like a warrior. He looked like someone's grandfather. But when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of all humanity. We have received the Council's message, he said. They want us to surrender. They want us to let them change who we are. They want us to become something less than human. He paused. The world held its breath. We will not comply. The reaction was immediate. Some people cheered. Some people screamed. Some people cried. On the news, experts argued about whether Hanbin had just doomed the human race. But Hanbin was not finished. I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But I want you to understand something. Humanity has faced extinction before. Ice ages tried to freeze us. Plagues tried to sicken us. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. Every time, we survived. Every time we came back stronger, we looked directly into the camera. The Council thinks we are just another primitive species to be conquered. They are wrong. They have made a terrible mistake, and they will learn exactly how terrible very soon. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a facility that did not appear on any map, General Soyen received a coded message. Just 2 words: Prometheus active. She had waited her entire career for this moment. For 60 years, since humanity's first contact with alien technology, Earth's nations had worked together on a single secret project. They had found something. Something that changed everything. Soyen walked through corridors carved from solid rock. Armed guards stood at every door. Scientists hurried past with tablets full of data. The air hummed with energy that made her teeth ache. At the heart of the facility stood the beacon. It was a tower of black metal covered in symbols that hurt to look at. It was not human technology. It was not Council technology either. It was something far older, something the Council feared. Chief Engineer Ji-hoon met her at the control room door. He looked tired. He had been preparing for this moment for 30 years. "Is it ready?" Soyen asked. "It has been ready since before I was born," Ji-hoon said. "We just never had a reason to use it. We have a reason now." Above them, beyond the rock and the sky, the Council Armada began to move toward Earth. 10,000 ships carrying weapons that could burn away oceans. Alien admirals who had never known defeat. Soldiers who had conquered 100 worlds. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They expected another easy victory. They had no idea what they had awakened. Soyen placed her hand on the activation panel. It was warm, almost alive. The symbols on the beacon began to glow. "Humanity does not kneel," she whispered, and she pressed the button. The story began 60 years ago, in the cold silence of space. Astronaut Do-yeon was alone when he found it. He was part of a mining mission in the asteroid belt, looking for rare metals to fuel Earth's growing space industry. His job was simple: fly to rocks, scan them, mark the valuable ones for collection. It was boring work, but Do-yeon did not mind. He liked the quiet. On the 47th day of his mission, his scanner detected something strange. There was a large object hidden inside an asteroid, something made of metal. At first, Do-yeon thought it was an old satellite or a piece of space junk. He flew closer to investigate. What he found changed human history. The object was a ship, but it was not like any ship Do-yeon had ever seen. It was black as midnight, covered in symbols that seemed to move when he looked at them. It was huge, bigger than any vessel humanity had ever built, and it was old. His instruments said it was over 4 billion years old. Do-yeon should have reported his discovery immediately. Instead, something made him dock with the ancient vessel. Something called to him, a voice that was not a voice, feeling that pulled him forward like a fish on a hook. Inside the ship, he found the beacon, and he found something else. Something that was waiting. The builders were not a myth. The Council spoke of them in whispers, in the oldest records that were forbidden for lesser species to see. They were the first intelligent life in the galaxy. They had built wonders that modern science could not explain. They had created technology that bent the laws of physics like soft metal, and then billions of years ago they had vanished. Nobody knew why. Some said they destroyed themselves. Some said they evolved into beings of pure energy. Some said they were still out there, watching, waiting. The Council preferred not to talk about them at all. When Do-yeon touched the beacon, something woke up, an intelligence that had slept for longer than Earth had existed. It looked into his mind. It saw what humanity was. It saw what humanity could become, and it chose. Do-yeon returned to Earth a changed man. He carried with him data files that contained knowledge beyond human understanding. He also carried a message. The builders had left an inheritance for a worthy species. Humanity had been chosen. The governments of Earth did something they had never done before. They united. In secret, away from the public eye, every nation agreed to work together on a single project. They called it Prometheus, after the god who stole fire from heaven for 60 years. Humanity's greatest minds worked to understand builder technology. It was not easy. The science was so advanced it seemed like magic. Some researchers went mad trying to comprehend it. Others dedicated their entire lives to understanding a single component. But slowly, piece by piece, they made progress. General Soyun had joined the project as a young soldier. Now she was old, her hair white, her face lined with years of stress and secrets. She had given her life to Prometheus. She had missed her daughter's wedding. She had missed her grandchildren's births. All for this moment, the facility hummed with activity. Engineers ran final checks on systems they barely understood. Scientists monitored readings that defied explanation. Everyone knew what was at stake. "The Council fleet is advancing," reported a young officer named Junho. "They will reach Earth in 6 hours. That is more than enough time." Soyun replied. She led a group of senior officers deeper into the facility. Past the research labs where teams had spent decades decoding alien mathematics. Past the manufacturing center where they had built devices from materials that did not exist in nature. Past the medical wing, where volunteers had been modified to interface with builder systems, they reached the heart of the complex. The beacon stood before them, now connected to a massive array of human and alien technology. It looked like a black spike driven into the heart of the mountain. Dr. Mingi was there, along with Chief Engineer Ji-hoon and a dozen other senior personnel. They all looked at Soyun with the same expression, hope mixed with terror. "Before we do this," Soyun said, "I want everyone to understand what we know and what we do not know." She pointed at the beacon. "We know this is a communication device. We know it was left here by the builders, specifically for humanity to find. We know that when we activate it, something will happen." She paused. "We do not know exactly what that something is." The builder intelligence that spoke to Dojan was not very specific. It talked about an inheritance. It talked about a test. It talked about humanity proving its worth. "Hey. And if we fail the test?" asked Ji-hoon. "Then we are no worse off than we are now. The Council will modify us or destroy us. At least this way, we have a chance." Minji stepped forward. "I've studied the Council for 30 years. They are afraid of the builders. Truly afraid. Whatever the builders left behind, it is something that threatens everything the Council has built." "Then let us give them something to be afraid of," Soyun said. She placed her hand on the activation panel. The beacon responded to her touch, warming like a living thing. The symbols on its surface began to glow, cycling through colors that human eyes could not normally see. "Whatever happens next," Soyun said, "know that you have all served humanity well. Our children will remember this day." She pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the beacon began to sing. It was not a sound that traveled through air. It was a vibration that moved through space itself, spreading outward at speeds that made light look slow. It reached the Council fleet in seconds. It reached Council space in minutes. It reached the edges of the galaxy in hours, across the universe. In places that had been silent for billions of years, ancient machines began to wake up. The builders had not vanished. They had been waiting. And now, finally, someone worthy had called. Commander Yuna felt the signal before she heard it. It moved through her bones, through her blood, through the strange implants that connected her mind to builder technology. She had volunteered for modification 5 years ago, becoming one of the few humans who could directly interface with the ancient machines. She stood on the bridge of the indomitable humanity's secret weapon. The ship was hidden in a crater on the dark side of the moon where Council sensors could not reach. It was the first true warship humanity had ever built, constructed using knowledge from the builder archives. Its hull was made of metals that did not exist in nature. Its weapons drew power from sources that scientists still did not fully understand. "The beacon is active," reported Lieutenant Sun Woo from his station. He was young, barely 30, but he had trained for this moment since childhood. Yuna nodded. "Begin power-up sequence. All stations prepare for deployment." The Indomitable came alive around her. Systems that had been sleeping for months activated one by one. The ship vibrated with energy, eager to fulfill its purpose. Yuna could feel its excitement through her neural link. The ship was alive in ways that normal vessels were not. Commander Sunwoo said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "I am detecting something strange." "Define strange." "Subspace signatures." Hundreds of them. No thousands. They are appearing all across the solar system. Yuna smiled. Those are not enemies, Lieutenant. Those are friends. Across the galaxy, the inheritance was awakening. The builders had not simply vanished. They had prepared for this moment for billions of years. They had hidden fleets in dimensional pockets. Ships that existed outside normal space, waiting for a signal that would call them forth. They had left guardians in strategic locations, artificial intelligences that would guide worthy species to claim what had been left behind, and they had waited patiently for longer than stars had. Burned. The Council Admiral watched his sensors with growing horror. Ships were appearing everywhere. Not human ships. Not Council ships. Something else. Something that matched the oldest, most forbidden records in Council archives. This is impossible, he whispered. His name was difficult for human tongues to pronounce. He had commanded fleets for 300 years. He had conquered 17 worlds. He had never known fear. He knew it now. Admiral, his communications officer said, voice shaking. We are receiving reports from Homeworld. Ships are appearing in Council space. Thousands of them. Our defense grids are being disabled. Our weapons are not responding. The Admiral's black eyes went wide. How? How is this possible? On Earth, Dr. Minji watched the data streaming across her screens. She understood now. The beacon was not just a communication device. It was a key that unlocked builder infrastructure across the entire galaxy. They hid everything in plain sight, she breathed. All this time, the builder network was right under the Council's nose, hidden in subspace, waiting for someone to turn it on. General Soyin stood beside her. Why humanity? Why were we chosen? I do not know. Maybe it was our genetics. Maybe it was our psychology. Maybe it was just luck. Minji turned to face her. But right now, that does not matter. What matters is what we do with this gift. In lunar orbit, the Indomitable emerged from hiding. Yuna guided her ship toward Earth, where the Council fleet was approaching. She was not alone. Behind her, 100 builder vessels fell into formation. They were beautiful and terrible, shapes that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Open a channel to the Council flagship, Yuna ordered. The alien admiral's face appeared on her screen. He looked old now. Old and afraid. What have you done? He demanded. What have you done? Yuna kept her voice calm. You threatened our home. You do not understand what you have awakened. The builders. They were not gods. They were destroyers. They consumed everything in their path. They will destroy you just as they destroyed everything else. I have spoken with the builder intelligence, Yuna replied. It showed me their history. The real history, not the lies the Council tells. The builders did not destroy. They built. They created. They lifted younger species up and gave them the tools to reach the stars. She leaned forward. And then the ancestors of your Council attacked them. Out of fear. Out of jealousy, the builders could have wiped your species from existence. Instead, they chose to leave. They chose to wait for a species that would do better. The Admiral's face twisted. Lies, human propaganda, and explain why your weapons do not work. Explain why your ships are dead in space. The builders gave us the keys to their kingdom. If they wanted revenge, you would already be dead. The fact that you are still breathing proves that we are different from you. Yuna cut the channel. Commander Sunwoo reported. The Council fleet is attempting to retreat. Their engines are failing. Expected. The builder systems are suppressing their technology. They will not be able to run. She opened a channel to all human forces. This is Commander Yuna of the Indomitable. The situation has changed. We have received a gift beyond anything we imagined. But with that gift comes responsibility. We will not become what the Council was. We will not destroy unless we must. We will not murder unless there is no other choice. She took a deep breath. Our orders are clear. Disable the Council fleet. Remove their ability to harm us, but do not kill unless absolutely necessary. We are better than them. Today, we prove it. The builder fleet began to move. Ancient weapons powered up. Ships that had waited for billions of years prepared for battle. The council had come to Earth. Expecting to find sheep waiting for slaughter, they had found wolves instead, and the wolves had just been given teeth. The battle lasted for minutes and 23 seconds. Historians would later call it the shortest war in galactic history. Captain Hyunwoo watched from the tactical center of the Indomitable as builder vessels moved through the council fleet like ghosts. Council weapons fired, but hit nothing. Their shields activated, but stopped nothing. The ancient ships simply passed through their defenses as if they did not exist. Their technology operates on different principles, explained Dr. Bora, the mission's diplomatic advisor. She stood beside Hyunwoo, watching the display with wide eyes. The council uses physics as we understand it. The builders use physics as it actually is. There is no contest. One by one, council ships went dark. Their power systems failed. Their weapons stopped working. Their engines shut down. But their life support remained active. The builder intelligence had been very specific about that. No unnecessary death. That was the rule. Transport teams are ready, reported Lieutenant Sunwoo. We can begin evacuation of council crews on your command. Hyunwoo looked at Commander Yuna. She nodded. Begin transport. Send them home. Across the battlefield, blue light flickered. Council soldiers and crew members vanished from their disabled ships, appearing moments later on their homeworlds. They arrived confused, frightened, but alive. Many of them would never understand what had happened. They had come to conquer and had been sent home, like children after a scolding. The council flagship was the last ship to be cleared. Its admiral refused transport, standing alone on his dead bridge. Staring at the human vessel that had defeated his entire fleet without firing a single shot, Yuna appeared on his screen one final time. You can come with us willingly, or you can be transported by force. The choice is yours. The admiral's shoulders slumped. He was old, older than any human could imagine. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species evolve and die. He had thought he understood the universe. He understood nothing. Why? He asked, "Why did you spare us?" "Because we are not you," Yuna replied. "We do not solve problems by destroying everything in our path. We are better than that. We hope that someday you will be better too." The admiral vanished in a flash of blue light. On the council's throne world of Nexus Prime, panic had given way to stunned silence. The 12 elders who ruled the galaxy sat in their ancient chamber, surrounded by guards whose weapons no longer worked. Watching screens that showed their fleets disabled, their defenses collapsed. Their empire in ruins? It had taken less than an hour for everything they had built, over 40,000 years to fall apart. Admiral Taeyong's face appeared before them. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Behind him, Earth floated in the void, blue and beautiful and very much not destroyed. "The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved," Taeyong announced. "Your authority ends today. Your fleets are disabled. Your weapons are neutralized. Your ability to threaten other species has been removed." One of the elders, a creature with too many arms and eyes that glowed with inner fire, leaned forward. "You cannot do this. We have ruled for 40,000 years. We bring order to chaos. Without us, the galaxy will descend into war." "The galaxy was already at war," Taeyong replied. "You simply made sure only one side had weapons. That is not peace. That is tyranny." Another elder spoke, this one ancient, even by council standards. "What will you do with us? Execute us. Imprison us. Make us your servants. We will do none of those things. You will be allowed to return to your homeworlds. You will be allowed to govern your own species. But you will no longer rule others. The modified species will be restored to their original forms. The conquered worlds will be given their freedom. And if you ever threaten another species with extinction..." Taeyong paused. "Well, you have seen what we can do. I suggest you remember it." The screens went dark. On Earth, people poured into the streets. They had watched the battle on their devices, seen the council fleet disabled, heard the announcement of the council's fall. They did not fully understand what had happened. They did not need to. They understood one thing: humanity had won. President Hanbin addressed the world again, this time with a smile on his weathered face. Today marks a new chapter in human history. We have faced the greatest threat our species has ever known, and we have survived. More than survived. We have been given an opportunity that we do not fully understand yet. An inheritance from beings who lived billions of years before us. He looked directly into the camera. I will not lie to you. The road ahead will be difficult. We have been given great power, and great power brings great responsibility. We must prove that we deserve this gift. We must show that humanity can be trusted with the stars. In her office in Seoul, Dr. Minji wept. She had spent her whole life studying the council, fearing them, preparing for the day when they would come to destroy everything she loved. Now that day had come and gone, and humanity still stood. More than stood. Humanity had risen. General Soyen watched the celebrations from the underground facility. Engineers were already studying the new data flowing from the builder network. There was so much to learn, so much to understand. They had been given the keys to the universe, and they had barely opened the first door. What now? Asked Chief Engineer Ji-hoon. Soyen smiled. It was the first time she had smiled in years. Now we find out what we are really capable of. Above Earth, the builder fleet held position. Silent, waiting, ready to defend humanity's home for as long as necessary. The Council had threatened Earth. Minutes later, the Galactic Council had ceased to exist, and humanity's true story was just beginning. 1 year had passed since the day the Council fell. The galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Ambassador Yoonji stood before the Assembly of Free Peoples, the new governing body that had replaced the Council. The chamber was vast, built on a neutral world that had been chosen by vote. Representatives from over 200 species filled the seats, beings of every shape and size and color imaginable. Some breathed oxygen. Some breathed methane. Some did not breathe at all. But they all had one thing in common. They were here by choice, not by force. The motion to establish the Mutual Defense Compact has passed, Yoonji announced. All member species will have access to defensive technology. No species will be left vulnerable. No species will face extinction alone. Applause filled the chamber. It was a strange sound made by hands and tentacles and appendages that had no human name. But the meaning was clear. Hope, relief, joy. In the front row sat representatives from 17 species. They looked different from how they had looked a year ago. The biological modifications the Council had forced upon them were being reversed. It was a slow process, painful at times, but they were becoming themselves again. Warriors remembered how to fight. Poets remembered how to dream. Parents remembered how to love. One of them, a being with silver skin and eyes like stars, approached Yoonji after the session. I wanted to thank you, she said. Her voice was musical, like wind through crystals. My people were modified 3,000 years ago. We forgot what we were. We forgot everything. And now, because of humanity, we are remembering. Yanji took her hand. It was cool and smooth, like polished stone. You do not need to thank us. What the Council did to you was wrong. Fixing it was simply the right thing to do. That is exactly why I am thanking you. The alien's eyes glistened with tears that sparkled like diamonds. The Council would have asked what they could gain. You asked what you could give. That is the difference. That is why the builders chose you. On Earth, life had returned to something like normal. The skies were clear. The streets were busy. Children played in parks, while their parents watched the news on their devices. The news was different now. Instead of war and fear, there were stories of discovery. New worlds being explored. New species being contacted. New mysteries being solved. General Soyen had retired 6 months ago. Her work was done. The facility beneath the mountains had been converted into a research center, open to scientists from any species that wanted to learn. She spent her days now in a small house in Busan, watching the ocean and thinking about everything that had changed. Her granddaughter Hannah visited every weekend. She was 12 years old, full of questions about the universe and humanity's place in it. Today she sat on the porch beside Soyin, watching ships rise from the spaceport on the horizon. They were passenger vessels now, carrying tourists and students to destinations that had been forbidden for 40,000 years. Grandmother Hannah said, "Were you scared?" When the council came, Soyin considered the question carefully. She believed in telling children the truth, even when the truth was complicated. Yes, for a moment I was very scared. The council was powerful. We did not know if our plan would work. We did not know what the builders had left for us. We only knew that we had to try. What if it had not worked? Then we would have fought anyway. Humanity does not surrender easily. Your great-grandfather used to say that we are the most stubborn species in the universe. He meant it as a compliment, Hannah laughed. Then she grew serious again. Some kids at school say we should have destroyed the council. Made sure they could never threaten anyone again. Soyin nodded slowly. Some adults say that too. They are angry about what almost happened. Their anger is understandable, but you did not destroy them. No, we did not. Why? Soyin looked at her granddaughter. In Hannah's eyes, she saw the future of humanity. A future that could be bright or dark, depending on the choices they made. "'Cause destruction is easy," she said. "Anyone can destroy." The council destroyed for 40,000 years, and look where it got them. They built an empire on fear, and when their power was taken away, they had nothing left. She pointed at the ships rising into the sky. We want to build something better. Something that will last. We want to prove that you can be powerful without being cruel. You can be strong without being a bully. That is harder than destruction. Much harder. But it is worth doing. Hannah thought about this for a long moment. Then she nodded. I think I understand, grandmother. Good, because your generation will have to continue the work. We started something, but you will have to finish it. In deep space, the builder intelligence observed humanity's progress. It had no physical form anymore, existing as pure information spread across a network of ancient machines. It had waited for so long, tested so many species, watched so many fail. Humanity was different. They had been given absolute power and had chosen mercy. They had been given the ability to dominate and had chosen partnership. They had been given the keys to the universe and had started sharing them. The builders had made many things in their time. Stars, planets, life itself in some cases. But their greatest creation was not a thing. It was an idea. The idea that intelligence should lift up, not push down. That the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. They had searched for billions of years for a species that understood this idea, a species that would carry it forward. They had found humanity in the assembly chamber. The final motion of the day was being called. Yunji read it aloud. Be it resolved that the principles of the free peoples shall be cooperation over domination, protection over exploitation, growth over stagnation. Let no species stand alone. Let no voice go unheard. Let no future be determined by fear. The vote was unanimous. On the porch in Busan, Hannah asked one more question. What happens now, grandmother? Soyen put her arm around her granddaughter and looked up at the stars. They seemed brighter than they had a year ago. Or maybe she was just seeing them differently now. Now, she said, we find out what we are really capable of. Above them, humanity's ships flew toward a universe full of wonder and danger and possibility. Behind them was a past of near extinction and impossible rescue. Ahead was a future they would write themselves. The builders had chosen well, and humanity would not let them down.